I was reborn in the body of a white-fingered snake without a spiritual root, and in the store they put a price tag on me in 9 yuan. But the first beauty of the school was worth just one look at me, and she, despite everyone's disapproval, insisted on concluding a contract with me. But they had no idea that the first beauty of the school, Goching Fan, has actually been reborn. In a past life, she was the great empress of heaven. But because she developed the art of foreknowledge, she missed her chance for a breakthrough. And so, at the moment of her death on the battlefield, she was reborn and returned to graduate school. Starting her life anew, she decided not to practice foreknowledge and instead take up blood martial arts. And say, although I cannot give you heavenly treasures, I will take care of you all your life until the very end. But what didn't she know? So that's it. That the divine system of absorption has awakened in me. All I have to do is continuously absorb blood, and I can grow endlessly, and consuming rare items can even grant me mutations and even transformation into a dragon. You are all so white. I will call you a bai. Looking at the shrimp that Gosenhan placed in front of me. To be honest, my mouth was already watering, and I immediately opened mouth and grabbed the shrimp meat. I began to devour it greedily. At the same moment, there was an electronic synthesized sound in my head. Voice. The divine absorption system has been successfully tied. Congratulations to the owner for devouring frozen shrimp meat. Obtained blood and blood points, 0.1. Congratulations to the owner on his first takeover. Reward. The initial branch of purification skills has been opened. Digestion is improved. This sudden electronic voice drove me wild. Delight is indeed a system. I hastily began to study the description of the system, and in the same Miko realized how powerful she was. Consuming flesh, blood, and objects containing spiritual energy, you can get blood points and CI by absorbing rare items. I will receive purification points and open skill branches. Cleansing. In other words, I just need to constantly eat. And there is. And I can evolve endlessly. Then, in front of me, a light dark one slowly appeared. Screen, main characteristics panel, and everything here breathes poverty. I'll face a real monster. I probably won't even be able to make one sound. We need to develop slowly, without sticking out. Thinking about this, I again opened my mouth to the side. Gausenhan, the salesman at the store, said that it is enough to feed him once every 3 days. Why should I? It seems to me that he is still hungry. Qinghan is confused. Looked at me, my mouth agape. Then she took another piece of shrimp and carefully brought it to my mouth. 1, 2, and so on, 9 pieces in a row. Finally, I felt that it was no longer possible for me to. But I managed to get 0.9 units of vitality. If this continues, 3 meals a day. For each I will receive 0.1. In just 3 days my vitality will exceed 100 million. The more I thought about it, the more inspired I became. Gao Qinghan looked at me with undisguised surprise. It seems that Sayabite is still an eater. Luckily it's just white shrimp. For 10 yuan you can buy a whole package. If he eats so much, let him eat. Gao Qinghan walked around the streets for a while longer, and then returned home. I was reborn again and returned to this house. Although it is old, it is very cozy. Dad, Mom, you're okay. Rest assured, in this life, I will never allow so that the tragedy from a past life is repeated in ours. Family. Just a couple of sentences, but I, who had previously been in some kind of confusion, involuntarily bulged his eyes. Wait a while. Sister. So it turns out that she is a reincarnation. Well, hello. One is a casualty, the other is a degenerate. 2 geniuses in one house. What luck? Well, what can I say? I raised my head and looked at Gosenhan, and Gosenhan. At the same moment she looked at me. In a past life, the talent of a spellcaster awakened in me. Animals. I put all my strength and resources into this, but also to reach the initial level of the caster. Only at the age of 40, having switched to the martial arts of Qi and blood, I was able to reach the level of the earthly well. I became the 8th peerless empress of the heavenly dynasty. Unfortunately, the happiness was short-lived. In the last battle I fell. But it's unclear why, at the moment when I was freezing to death. and I was reborn and returned to my senior year of high school. Schools. This time I won't go down the route of the crater again. Animals, and I entered into a contract with you only for withdrawal. I'm going to put all my money and experience into fighting. Arts of chi and blood. What's up to you? Although I cannot give you the greatest treasures for your height, but I will take care of you all my life. Until the end of your days. I never thought that one day, the first beauty. The school will personally tell me that it will take care of me all my life. Such words. Previously, I would not have hesitated to agree. But now, in my soul, it's as if a herd of, from 10,000 alpacas. It seems, with a high degree of probability, that they're going to let it take its course. For that matter, it's better to eat. And I opened my mouth again towards Gaosenhan. Gaosenhan looked at my reaction in surprise. Just think, I said so much to some snake. Okay, if you're hungry, eat. With these words, she added a few more pieces. Shrimp. And she laid them in front of me. Then she turned away and started watching TV. According to a correspondent from our channel, a strange beast has recently appeared in Linyan City, who managed to break through to the level of the king of beasts. His strength has increased significantly. Perhaps he will cause serious damage to the defense of Linyan City. In addition, we remind all the awakened ones of the city, Linyan going hunting. The king of beasts is capable of accepting human appearance. Be careful with strangers while hunting. In the wasteland, listening to the news on TV, I involuntarily stopped living. The king of beasts can accept human appearance. I was even confused from excitement. And Gao Qinghan also began to mutter to herself as she looked in the TV to the model. In this world, and the animals are divided into 9 levels. They correspond to 9 ranks of dancers. And also on the beasts that have broken through to the level of the king of beasts must have at least 1,000,000 hit points. Strength. I looked at my 0.2 vitality points, and for a moment, I simply had no words. With my current rate of vitality growth, to reach the 1,000,000 points required for transformation, I'll have to wait 10,000 years. At the thought of this, I immediately lost heart. But fortunately, I have system support. To begin with, I'll set myself a small goal to absorb everything until I become the king of beasts. And so, I went headlong into eating shrimp. 3 whole days passed like this. I finally waited for the first cleansing of the system. System alert. We can say that these shrimp serve their purpose. If so, then there is no need to doubt it. Start cleansing. The first cleansing has begun. This cleansing will last for 4 hours as soon as a system alert sounded. The next second my vision went dark, and I fell into a deep sleep when I came again. Into yourself. I was no longer on the coffee table in the living room, but back to Gaosenhan's room. My long, thin body was coiled around. Litter. I'm a whole rump thicker than I was 3 days ago. Even my length increased to 30 centimeters. Gaosenhan fed me shrimp again. But I took a bite, and the system did not react at all. Shrimp seemed to no longer provide vitality points. I immediately spat out the shrimp. Such a sudden reaction made Gaosenhan raise her eyebrows in surprise. She instinctively picked up the shrimp and smelled it. But there was no strange smell. Are you tired of it? Gaosenhan took out another piece of bloody beef, and she placed it in front of me. I didn't hesitate for a second. He opened his mouth and swallowed this piece of meat. Congratulations. The owner consumed fresh beef, received 0.21 points. Vitality. Vitality points that can be obtained from beef are. Of course, it cannot be compared with shrimp meat. He silently watched me finish the meat and looked pleadingly at him. Gaosenhan immediately understood what I meant. He turned and asked his mother to continue buying more meat so that there's some for this baby too. Cooked. And so another 6 serene days passed. Every day my vitality increased steadily by 1.5 points. Soon my vitality reached 10 points. Life force has reached its current maximum. Please start the second evolution as soon as possible. Conditions for the second evolution. At the moment, 1 evolution point is missing. Evolution points can only be obtained by consuming rare items. And where can I get them? with my current strength and size. In the wild, any creature encountered is likely to kill. Me with one blow, what good I myself will become for someone with an evolution point. And just when I was in complete despair, I suddenly heard Goutsenhain saying goodbye to his mother. I got notifications from school. Today the school is organizing a practical lesson on combat training. All classmates must take part in the symbolic training ground, so don't expect me for dinner. To my surprise, Gozenhan suddenly grabbed me and shoved me in your backpack. It turns out he is involved as a tamer. Spiritual beasts, which means he needed to take from yourself as your spiritual beast. At that moment my eyes lit up, practically. Combat training class. This means there will be other animals there. This is my chance to. Second evolution. The lightning stretched again. Gao Qinghan was already in his class. I didn't even have time to come to my senses when a pair of gentle hands grabbed me and hugged me to her, and then a light, girlish aroma reached my tongue. It's only been a little over 10 days. Asio Abai has already grown so much, and his scales are so smooth. Gao Qinghan's close friend, Sun Yangxi, she gently stroked me without letting go of her hands. I myself don't understand what's the matter. And he really is growing quickly. Then Igwa Wuckingham put her hand on me and started stroking it, but it was still too small. If you take him into battle in this form, he will be different, and on one. The bite won't be enough. And at that moment, Niskarev was heard from outside. All eyes rushed to the door. A guy with blonde hair appeared in the doorway. Hair, which led on a leash a huge, fiery red lion. The guy looked around contemptuously and chuckled. Lion. Next to him emitted a furious roar, similar to a hummater. Everyone was so frightened by this that the classroom became deathly silence. Huang Shi, who grinned smugly. Then he walked to Go Qinghan and Sun Yangsa. Qinghan. Appreciated in the spiritual beast. Well, how do you like him? Purebred stone swallow from the Fire Clan. My dad spent 500,000 on it to buy it at an auction. Spending 500,000 on a beast is enough. And it's a pity for decent manners and thousands. You brought a lion to class. You don't see that your classmates are scared. Besides, it's just a rank 1 battle beast. Was it worth it? Puff up. The words from Yangxi were razor sharp and did not leave. Huang Xiu doesn't have a single chance to save face. Huang Xiu looked contemptuously at the Yangxi, and then again. Overlooked, stuffed a scaly snake in the hands of Gozenhan. So this is your spiritual beast. Well, you give, of course. The first spiritual beast. This is the most important thing for the tamer. And you took it so lightly, just entered into a contract with some white snake. If couldn't find a suitable one, could you tell me? I would. No problem. I asked my father to find you a spirit beast. Better. Gozenhan shook her head and replied, no need. Then she turned, took me in her arms and walked to the exit of the classroom, leaving Huangshi, Hu, and Volva behind. In complete bewilderment. Training ground and Jin after cool. The manager finished the briefing. Everyone chose the right one for themselves. Weapons and armor, and went inside. In appearance, this place was no different from usual. But the deeper we went, classmates who at first stayed together gradually dispersed. Sunyats, who on the outside is not afraid of anything in the world. It has become unusually quiet here. She hugged me with one hand and grabbed me with the other. Into Go Qinghan's hand, and carefully walked forward. Perhaps thanks to my snake instincts. I could roughly determine by smell what was in the radius. 2 or 3 kilometers. There were 3 sources of smell that chilled the blood. Veins. This meant that the place was not exactly teeming with danger. Turning my head, I saw the fighting spirit in Gozinghan's eyes. And this calmed me down very much. Suddenly the silence pierced my hiss when he saw me staring. To one point. Gozinghan reacted first, sudden movement. Wrists, and the long spear that was at her side is here. The stream flashed. The tip of the copy was directed into the thickets. Bushes next to us. In the next moments, a spider long, more than 40 centimeters, jumped out of the thicket, and high. Jumped up, aiming at me. My body instantly tensed, and I heard a shrill sound begin. Shout from the Unyats. But even before it rang out in full force, the fused. The spear darted forward with lightning speed. It was so fast that there was even a whistle of cut-off air. There was only the sound of a slurp, just so fierce and thirsty. Eat me, giant spider, found its death. On the Gotsenhan spear, everything went like clockwork, without the slightest hesitation. Only at this moment I truly believed that Gotsenhan was really reincarnation. Empress, but such a mentality definitely shouldn't. To be with an ordinary high school girl, I moved slightly, and floor with a carcass of black wolf pig. My intuition told me that this black wolf pig will give me what I need. I didn't hesitate for a second. Opening my mouth, I grabbed the pig's head. Wow, it tastes like chicken. At the same time, a system notification was issued. Congratulations, carrier. You also devoured the folk animal, the black wolf pig. Received 0 points and 0 blood. Gained 0.14 evolution points. This means that you can indeed get evolution points. I did the math in my head. 1 pork leg is worth 0.1 points. If you eat all the pig's feet, you will gain enough evolution points for improvement. Well, let's go. I was able to do all 8 pig legs one after the other. The system notification has finally changed. Congratulations, carrier. You have fulfilled the conditions for the second evolution. Start evolution. Begin. Immediately, a burning sensation spread throughout my body from within. Heat. It seemed as if all my blood was boiling. I, as a representative of the cold-blooded, at that moment, felt as if my body was about to be torn apart. Sun Yangtze extended her hand to lift me up again. But as soon as her fingers touched my skin, I heard hissing. She instinctively pulled her hand back. Hot. Xiaobai, what's wrong with you? What are you doing? I got poisoned. But Gyukinghan only frowned slightly. She stopped with Onyance, who wanted me again. Move. Xiaobai ate only holy legs. It's unlikely to be poisoning. It looks like he is transforming. You can see how I am getting stronger. I curl up into a ball, squirming. I suddenly felt the translucent scales. The more I squirmed, the more I wrinkled. Scales left me. A few minutes later, the burning sensation engulfed the entire body, began to slowly weaken until it disappeared completely. I breathed a sigh of relief. The cleansing is complete, spent. Cleansing energy, congratulations, bearer. The second cleansing is completed, although I suffered a lot, but luckily it was worth it. Now that the life force limit has been lifted, I can continue. Continue to cleanse. You need to go deeper. The test lasts only 4 hours. I must take first place in the class. It's all because of that vitality pill. As the power of the spirit beast and its master grows, the effect of the prisoner at the very beginning of the spiritual contract is becoming more and more apparent. I can even vaguely sense what Gao Qinghan is thinking. Plus, the smells that were previously a little blurry. Now, I can sense where the monsters are much more accurately. This is another change that the second brought me. Transformation. My physical senses became incredibly heightened. Gao Qinghan and Suning Shigen follow me. Battles are becoming more frequent. In this not-too-dense forest, Gao Qinghan mercilessly exterminates low-level creatures, and Sunin Shigen trails behind, just for extras. From Eve, black-haired rabbit with blood-red eyes. I used evolution points to improve the art. Cleansing. Branch of development, enhanced digestion. But before I had time to continue devouring everything around me, a voice came from heaven. The practical lesson is over. More than half an hour has passed. Liang Nyu led me back to the reception center. Huang Shihu, seeing Liang Nyu enter, immediately ran over to her. Gotsenhan, I scored 177 points. The rest have the maximum. Only 45. Well, cool. And when Huang Shihu said this, the eyes showed complacency and expectation. Obviously, he craved praise and admiration from Gotsenhan. However, Gotsenhan was not at all interested in this. Hearing the number 177, she secretly sighed with relief. And then, with a cold chuckle, she went to load hers combat form. Sun Yangtze rolled her eyes at Huang Shaohu. Scored so few points with high-level spiritual. The beast that daddy bought for you, and you still have enough. The nerve to brag about it. Hearing Sun Yangtze's words, Huang Shaohu immediately left. Myself. Even if I got these points thanks to my father, it's still the highest score in the class. Sun Yangtze chuckled. Only you can be so self-confident. Since young Master Huang is so confident, why shouldn't we make a bet? If your score is the highest, I'll give you one pelule of qi and blood, and in addition 2 more pelules of mixed blood for your spirit beast. Hearing this, Huang Xiuni restrained himself and laughed loudly. In class, the video has not been uploaded yet, only you and Qinghan. You white-scaled snake with whom Qinghan has a contract. Obviously, he is not capable of this. As for you, although you are not weak, how strong are you? Maybe there is such a girl to surpass my fiery one. Winter Lion Devourer? I agree on a couple. If you lose, you will give me your WeChat contact with Sunhan. Huang Shihu was absolutely confident in himself. The confident smile appeared on his face again. However, the next moment the voice of the class teacher was heard. Gao Sanghan, 234 points. Everyone turned towards the class teacher. The previously self-confident Huang Shihu. He froze in an instant, and the smile petrified on his face. Sun Yangtze grinned and extended her hand to Huang Shihu. Said, Young Master Huang, an agreement is worth more than money. You've just been in front of everyone. I agreed to the bet. You're not going to go back on your words, are you? Huang Shihu's expression became increasingly tense. Huang Shihu instinctively wanted to object. But, turning around, he met. The eyes of the whole class were fixed on him. Don't worry, it's just a few pills. I'm not so low as to refuse a bet. Which he himself agreed to. With these words, Huang Shihu took out the pills and threw them with onions. We're even. And young Master Huang is really generous. Pills. Worth 4,000, I just gave it away. Sun Yance put the pellets and blood that she had in hand, Vlading Gouts in hand. She then stretched out Gukkenhan's backpack and waved the pelule. Mixed blood right in front of my nose. Sayabai, look what little sister got for you. I am extremely sensitive to smells. The moment the zipper on the backpack came apart, a fresh aroma hit my nose. This is an incredible attraction. It was so strong that I thought I lost my mind. Without the slightest hesitation, I opened my mouth and the one that was in the hands of the Yunyance, bright red, swallowed the pill in one smooth pill. Wait. You have too little qi and blood, you can't eat the pill. Mixed blood. Gao Qinghan has not yet finished speaking, and I have already swallowed the pill. In the next moments, I had an indescribable feeling of bursting heat. The owner's problems with the mixed blood pill. Received 28 points of QI and blood. Received 12 evolution points. An unexpected rush of qi and blood. It was so strong that it seemed like my body was about to explode. At the same moment, I understood if nothing was done. My body could be torn to pieces at any second. From this healing power, use evolution points. Activate the tree evolution branch. Enhanced digestion. Purification points absorb filth. Branch level, enhanced. Digestion, increased, with increased digestion. Up to the 3rd level. The medicinal power that once raged furiously inside was instantly pacified in the form of my torment. With Unyance muttering apologies in a panic, and Gotsenhan, standing aside, looked at it with some bewilderment. Just now he was writhing in terrible agony. But not even a couple of seconds passed before everything disappeared without a trace. On the contrary, he looked joyful and excited. He had already mastered the full power of the mixed blood pellet. Even Gotsenhan, who had seen a lot in his past life. I couldn't help but be amazed at this moment. This white-scaled serpent that I randomly chose doesn't seem to be as simple as it looks. Intelligent, with a monstrous appetite, eats everything in one crouch, capable even when his life force. At a pitiful level, forcefully absorb the mixed pill. Blood. At this thought, Gao Qinghan turned around and turned to an employee, asked for the remains of low-level curiosities. Animals. He filled the spatial ring with them to capacity. With Unyance, Only after that they, satisfied, set off. Home. The residual power of the mixed blood pill plunged me into a heavy sleep for almost an hour. When I woke up, we were already at home. Opening my eyes, I saw Gautzenhain, who was sitting on the bed, legs crossed, in a pose, 5 hearts to heaven. He was clearly meditating, absorbing spiritual energy. First-rank fighter. I didn't expect Gautzenhain to develop its strength while everyone in the class was still treading water. Student. He has already successfully reached the level of a fighter. For comparison, my E2 vitality stat reached up to 100 points required for the third cleanse. Still, just like before the moon, you need to continue to level up and level up. Without further ado, I opened my mouth in front of Gautzenhain. I'm already hungry so quickly. Gautzenhain raised his hand and wiped off the boiling water from his forehead. Then he turned his palm slightly, spatial. The ring flashed with light, the size of a fist, in front of. They put a skinny leg containing phosphorus with me. And potassium. After enhanced digestion, reached the third level. My appetite has increased noticeably. This skinny leg looks like a good half kilo of fun, and I swallowed all of it in one sitting. Congratulations, Master. You have absorbed the 3-way Callan Blade. Gained 2.7 vitality points. Gained 0.6 points. Cleansing. 0.7 vitality points. This is definitely a lot. This is equivalent to everything I ate the day before. But now I still felt empty in my stomach. Also, Gautzenhain felt the emotions that I conveyed to him. He was slightly taken aback, but then became excited. From his spatial storage, he took out more. 1 piece of lean meat, which was even larger. Previous one. I didn't hesitate for a second. Opening my mouth, I swallowed the whole piece. Congratulations. Master, you have absorbed the spirit of the stone turtle. Gained 3.4 vitality points. Gained 0.9 points. Evolution, congratulations. Owner, unlocked non-activated. Tree peeling branches, salt armor protection, new branches. Evolution, such a sudden turn filled my heart with jubilation at the ability that can save me. Life at a critical moment. I definitely won't skimp. System, invest evolution points in protecting stone armor. After activation, I didn't feel anything special, just a slight tingling sensation under the scales that slowly spread throughout the body. There was a constant circulation across the surface of my body. Weak energy flow. If any attack could penetrate my defenses, scales, she will encounter resistance from this energy. In 10 days, the panel of my characteristics is completely updated. And judging by the current rate of obtaining vital force, in just a few days, my life force will reach the threshold for the third evolution. Shortly thereafter, Gautzenhain received the medal of the first warrior rank. However, contrary to expectations, he was more worried than glad. Although warriors of the first rank receive every month benefits of 1,000 alliance credits and 1 life pill strength, but training will require even more resources so that the growth rate of chi and blood does not fall. You cannot take a break for at least 3 days. For this, I need a chi and blood pill. But this is only a temporary measure, not a solution to the problem. Only by going hunting in the wasteland can you earn enough money for training and the so-called. The wasteland is lands captured by other animals after the cataclysm. And although some were able to make a fortune in the wasteland, but as they say, with great reward comes great risk. Much more often rumors, deaths, or wounded soldiers. If only I could break through to the level of Zverevoin, then I can pass the animal tamer exam, and I have. Additional monthly income will appear. Gao Qinghan watched as I muttered to myself. In this mode, 3 times a day. I ate for 3 more days, and my QI and blood levels peaked again. For the current rank, congratulations, Master, for absorbing Sansadesi. 0.4 points and blood received. 0 purification points received. The conditions for the third purification have been met. Start cleansing. This time the burning was much stronger than last time. On my initially white scales, as if from a burn, red veins began to appear, and so did consciousness. Started to get foggy, and just when I was ready give up, Gao Qinghan noticed something was wrong. The third transformation. How is this possible, even for Gao Qinghan, who reached imperial rank in a past life, and I have seen a lot of other animals capable of the third transformation. Could be counted on the fingers of one hand, and that's all. They were, without exception, creatures of the imperial. But although she was internally shocked, externally Wu Qinghan remained unperturbed. With one movement of the hand, a blood-mixing pill appeared in her palm. I didn't even have time to resist the dot model. Without further ado, he slipped the pill, mixed blood directly into my mouth as soon as the pill was in my mouth. Feeling that my qi and blood are about to will explode, it surges again. But then Jinya, on the contrary, began to subside. It became tolerable again. In a few minutes, the system notification sound sounded again. Congratulations to the carrier for absorbing the mixed pellet. Blood. Gained 20 years of qi and blood. Received 8 years of evolution points. Congratulations to the host on completing the third evolution. Looking at a 2-meter white snake with a piercing. Looking ahead, Gao Qinghan froze, with an expression of incredible amazement. On your face, it all went by so quickly, your growth rate. In no way inferior to mine. At this moment, Gao Qinghan had mixed feelings. In a past life, he studied the path with all his heart for 20 years. At the Keeper of Beasts, but in the end suffered complete defeat. In this same life, he followed this path from the very beginning. Martial arts of qi and blood. He couldn't even imagine that a randomly chosen squirrel, the scaly snake, will give him such a huge surprise. Gao Qinghan even had the thought of going again in his head. On the way at the crater. Animals. But he immediately threw it away. Shaking his head, he smiled wryly. If you focus on qi and blood martial arts, you can definitely become a martial emperor. But from a billion to spiritual beasts, those who can rise to the level of the beast god can be. Count on one's fingers. White-scaled snake lineage potential for ultimate. In that account is limited. However, if she becomes a beast to the soldiers, this will happen. Enough for me to pass the selection to become a tamer. Gotsenhan's thoughts began to move, and his gaze caught fire. He decided to simultaneously master martial arts, qi and blood, and prepare to become a tamer. After registration and all preparations, the person and the snake, accompanied by an employee, was brought into the forest for combat training. The moment I stepped into the forest, and I felt how I had changed. Smell in the air. The smells and ovales coming from different directions had an impact. The pressure on me is indescribable. Xiao Bai, just try, don't force yourself, said Gao Qinghan, and put his hand on my head. I vaguely remember that in the qualifying exam in a previous life, he and I took it 4 times, and the exotic. The animals that were released here were all from the wasteland. Then, from the 4 hauras, I quickly headed towards side of the weakest, until he reached the thickets of low bush. A strong smell hit my nose just as I tried. Determine the exact location where the enemy was hiding. The next moment the scorpion's tail darted straight ahead with force. To my head. He was so fast that I had time to react. I could only instinctively dodge, and at the last moment to dodge the sting, and I finally was able to see his opponent in all his glory. It was a coal-black creature more than 50 centimeters, with a couple of huge ones to spare in front, and a high-raised tail with a crimson sting at the end. Holy shit, this is a royal poisonous scorpion. It won't be easy with this creature. Not only does he have an outstanding protection, but also the poisonous sting on the tail is incredible. Insidiously. For a hunter, one injection means either death or injury. An employee who observed the exam from the side, looking at the confrontation between the serpent and Scorpio, he hurried. Advised Gao Qinghan to change his opponent for his pet. But I understood perfectly well that this Scorpio had a high attack, but low health. If I had chosen a different opponent, I'm afraid it would only have been more difficult. In addition, he is very slow. Each attack with his stinger requires preparation time before he can strike. Again, after a short confrontation, I already understood his weak point. So I jerked forward sharply with my long and flexible body. I rushed straight towards the great Duty Daven. Seeing this, great Duty Daven struck again with his sting. Luckily, this time I was ready. With a sharp jerk of my body, I dodged the sting at the last moment, and then I accelerated sharply, opening my mouth, and it seemed like I was going to swallow him entirely. Great Duty Davin saw that his stinger attack missed, and immediately put his huge Krishnas forward to grab me. The next moment my tail is like a whip. He hit the Great Duty Davin in the side with all his strength. Out of surprise, his body immediately turned over. The Great Duty Davin tried to roll over and continue the attack, but I was already quickly wrapped around him. Over 120 points of vitality were squeezing him nonstop. The body of the Great Duty Davin. It started to break down with a bang. From the moment we met until the end of the battle, no more than half a minute. Such a fast fight. The observing employees were left in complete shock. This is your white-scaled snake. It seems too smart, convinced that the Great Duty Davin is finally dead. It opened its mouth and swallowed one of its claws. Congratulations to the owner for absorbing the beast soldier. The Great Duty Davin gained 5.4 health points. Received 1 evolution point. Congratulations to the owner for unlocking the branch and the taste of cleansing. This means that the poisons really are mobile, absorbing the creature with special properties. You can open skill branches. Cleansing. I fought the entire battle on my own. Gao Qinghan never intervened from the beginning to end. Naturally, the exam was passed. I finished the remains of the Great Duty Davana, and Gao Qinghan successfully obtained the certificate from the crater. Entry-level animals. The employee looked me up and down and turned around and asked Gao Qinghan, "This white spiritual snake is for sale?" He was ready. Pay 50,000 yuan. When I heard this number, I couldn't help but think, holy shit, is it really possible? Am I already worth that much? Just think, once my price was 9.9, and also, from a big bag, buy it into the bargain. In just 2 weeks the price increased 5,000 times. However, not a single muscle on Gao Xinhan's face fluttered. She simply shook her head. The employee wanted to continue to insist, but Gao Xinhan beckoned me with her hand. "Shabai, let's go back." Which surprised me the most. So it is that in the face of an offer of 50,000, Gao Xinhan seemed to have not hesitated for a second, as if sensing, "What am I thinking about?" Gao Xinhan turned to me. "Even though 50,000 is a high price, and it would be enough to cover the expenses of a warrior of the first rank and second level. But you are my spirit beast after all. And I am such a person. I don't have the habit of selling my comrades." In the following days there was again only an endless series of training and breakthroughs. After she became a warrior, Gao Qinghan was required more and more resources for improvement, and the resulting. There were no longer enough supplies to cover expenses. Finally, after a month of hard training, Gao Qinghan decided to take me with her to the wasteland. By that time, my vitality had already exceeded the 500 mark. Having prepared the necessary weapons and equipment, Gao Qinghan put me in her spiritual bag as she said goodbye. With parents, she boarded a train heading into the wasteland. The destination on this trip was the town of warriors. Number 72. A large-scale event just took place in this place. Cleanup operation. The likelihood of high-level monsters attacking has been reduced to 0. For the two of us, this place was perfect. However, in the wasteland, the greatest danger may not come from monsters, but from the same people who are ready to kill and rob. New birth, old grievances. If you die in the wasteland, everyone will blame it on you. Devoured by a monster. Nobody will care about this. And especially no one will investigate this. After registering at the entrance, Gao Qinghan gradually disappeared into the plain at the entrance to the City of Dancers, until the skyline of the City of Dancers became behind. Vague. Got sink and let me out of the forest belt. Our area of activity is limited to a radius of 100 kilometers from the city. Now it's your time to act. I just sniffed it slightly and immediately caught it sharply. A barely noticeable smell hung in the air. After thinking a little, I moved. Gao Xinhan followed me. Man and snake, we have walked together no more than 1 kilometer. How a huge lizard appeared in front of us, the length, more than 1.5 meters. From Gao Qinghan, I learned that this is the armored area of the first rank, initial stage of soldier, health approximate 300. Its scales can be used to create the armor of the first Like, the estimated cost is about 2,000. She barely finished speaking. Gao Qinghan, with a long spear in her hand, rushed towards the armorer. On the side, the front part of my body made a continuous hissing, distracting this armored guy, whose attention, and it was so difficult to concentrate. When Gao Xinhan got within 10 meters of him, I rushed forward, and at the last moment I attacked the armored pressure. In the next rotting, with a smooth spear in the hands of Gao Xinhan, pierced the air, a cold copy flashed on the stream. Shine, Anim instantly stuck. The only vulnerable spot on an armored vehicle's body is the front paw. The armored one roared in pain, and in a rage tried counterattack. But, after running a few meters, his carcass collapsed on ground. After more than 10 seconds there was no and a sign of life. 2,000 alliance coins in your pocket, placing the Panzer armored vehicle into spatial storage. She turned around and continued moving in the same direction. Rather, they came across a giant god, worth 1,400 alliance coins. Beidze Yugen worth 3,200 coins. Alliance. That's how the whole morning went. I collected 6,666 coins worth of premium materials. If everything goes according to plan, today I can produce materials worth more than 10,000. At this thought, even always calm and reserved, Bio Qinghan, he smiled involuntarily. Everything went so smoothly, largely thanks to my ability to identify animals both in strength and direction movements. But even so, before sunset, we had to return to the town of dancers, because at night the animals become more ferocious after swallowing the last piece of meat. White-striped leopard. The system again issued a message, congratulations to the carrier for devouring the beast soldier and the white-striped leopard. Received 6.2 health points and C. Received 1.3 points. Evolution. After that, I started allocating points in my stat bar. After several manipulations, my characteristics panel completely updated. Tuning the energy that used to flow under my scales became much more noticeable and denser. Animals of the same level. It is unlikely that they will be able to inflict any significant damage on me. Damage. And second-level poison is actually something. Depending on the strength and purpose, it imposes a status. Poisoning, forcibly taking away health. In other words, he ignores the defense. Even if I bite the god of beasts himself, he will lose health. But how much health he will lose? And won't he kill me in return after this? I still had to think about this. We didn't stop. In the afternoon, we continued the hunt. But this time we were less lucky than in the morning. For all the time, only one giant armored one came across. Lizard. No more loot. Seeing that the sun was about to set, we reluctantly returned to the town of dancers. All were obtained today for material from animals. I'm completely sold. Received 8,400 allied coins. Gazenhan bought 3 Pelyulitsa and blood, and 2 more pellets of mixed blood. Plus I paid for the overnight stay. All the day's earnings were gone. I worked all day, tirelessly, and in 10 minutes he lost everything earned. But as soon as I took 2 mixed blood pills, all my objections immediately evaporated, disappeared. It was very sweet that night. So another 7 days passed. Each day was like. First, in the morning, outside the city, he hunts the one-armed sun. Then he descended from the mountains and returned to the village. Dancers. Income almost every day ranged from 8 to 10,000 allied coins. Gao Qinghan had already accumulated more than 20 pels of street and blood. This will be enough for him to train for 2 months. The martial arts entrance exams were 2 weeks. I'll stay in the wasteland for a couple more days, and then I'll come back and prepare properly for the exams. Gao Qinghan was frying meat, muttering something to himself as he trade. But in the next moments I suddenly straightened up, and he looked to the side. My usually lazy gaze was now half wary. Kozenkin followed my gaze. In the distance he vaguely saw a car, which was at full speed was approaching us. There was a sharp squeal of brakes, a black SUV, lifting dust, confidently stopped right in front of Gazenhan. And me, 5 guys with dyed yellow hair. Covered from head to toe with tattoos, they came out. Cars. The leader was wearing a white t-shirt and camouflage pants. In his hands he held a long and thin sword. Yes, from all the others, Powerful vibrations of qi and blood were emanating. It was immediately clear that this would not end well. Baby, what are you doing here alone? Moreover, she knocked off the scales from the Mayoi. Don't you know that this is a wasteland? It's dangerous here. The blonde guy at the head looked at Gao Qinghan from head to toe, and his lips curled into a grin. Do you want your brother to protect you? Qinghan's face expressed impatience. She frowned. The elders in the family have an urgent matter. I'll quickly just replenish the stock in the city and be right back. You have nothing to worry about. Who would have thought that such a cutie could do it so skillfully? Is he lying? In the morning we went to the city for supplies. And why didn't they take you with them? And they left you here alone to lie to us. But this is no longer good on your part, said the leader, addressing the girl. With a slur he drew his long sword, pointing it straight to Gazenhan, as punishment for you for deceiving those who sincerely wanted to help you. Drive your drive. Gazenhan frowned. But before Gazenhan could do anything, the most powerful pressure of the life force fell upon us. At that very moment, I felt as if a whole mountain. It became much more difficult to even move. Girl, listen to some good advice. Give me your drive. In an amicable way. We only need your values. We don't need your life. Our booty over these days was not huge, but not small either. Gazenhan exchanged all alliance coins for pills. Vitality. If you give the drive back now, then all 8 days, which we spent here, they'll go to waste. Obviously, Gazenhan could not agree to this. Seeing that Gazenhan does not even think of obeying, the yellow-haired. The leader nodded to his henchman to pull out the knife and pointed. It's right to my neck. I don't mind seeing a little blood, but I'm sorry to touch such a cutie, so I'll have to. Start with your pet. In a panic, I hastily called up my panel and pumped up the protection. Up to the 3rd level. Level 3 protection should help me survive. A little longer, but in the face of absolute superiority in force, this didn't seem to do any good. When he reads to 3, the bandit leader arrogantly raised his head. The long sword that was pointed at me immediately flew up, and then quickly dropped. I won't give it up. At the very last moment, Gao Qinghan still made a concession. There were 5 of them. They were clearly determined to take the ring vault. Even if they killed me, they still wouldn't leave me. If only the ring on Gazenhan's hand would be in peace. If so, then why resist? Gazenhan took the vault ring from her hand and threw it towards them. That's better. The blonde leader looked smug. Ring and began to examine it. However, after a few seconds the smile faded from him. Faces. He looked at Gazenhan again. Little sister, don't joke with your big brother like that. There are only 20 pills and blood here. Are you trying to get rid of a beggar with a handout? For Gao Qinghan, there were already 20 pills and blood. A huge fortune. But for this neck, which has been hunting for a long time in wasteland, fighting to the death, this was clearly not enough to satisfy them. Appetites. By the way, we are 5 brothers. And since everyone will get from these 20 pills, come on, quickly lay out everything you have. Gao Qinghan felt hopelessness in her heart. She explained that she had just recently arrived in the wasteland, and that's all she had. But the fair-haired man didn't seem to believe her either. Still trying to deceive your big brother, right? You can afford the white spiritual snake. 2nd transformation as a spirit beast. And you only have 20 pills and blood with you. Since you don't want to give everything away in a good way, then big brother will have to search you himself. The long sword returned to its sheath. A vulgar look appeared on the face of the fair-haired leader again. Grin. Xiao Bai. Gazenhan, who had been frowning before, at that moment, suddenly relaxed. Then she kicked and speared. What was still sticking out in the ground immediately rose into the air. I squeezed it tightly in my hand, and I immediately opened the snake. Fall and rushed present. There is a man next to me to cling to his lord. But, obviously, the enemy had been on the alert for a long time, waiting. Our move with Gao Qinghan, he easily dodged from my sudden attack. Moreover, he immediately raised his long sword over me. From the swim, aim for the head. I didn't dare take the risk, and see if I could. My third-level illusory defense can withstand it. Hit. There was no choice but to retreat and wait for another opportunity. Gao Qinghan, on the other hand, also failed. She wanted to seize the initiative to catch the robbers, first by beheading their king. However, no matter how refined her technique may be before, face of absolute superiority in brute force, it was all. Then I sent a shot, after several exchanges of blows. She was pushed back and retreated towards me. I didn't think that this little girl had such a cool disposition. However, it's even better. The hotter the peppercorn, the more. I like her. You finish off this snake and leave this baby. Me. And then, when I've played enough, you'll get in line. And then we'll go and cut that show, Gene. Everyone's assembled. Insulting words came out of this yellow-haired man's mouth. But Zhu Qinghan didn't seem to hear him at all. She just lowered her head slightly and looked at Xiaolu. They came for me. Now I will try my best to keep them in Petersburg. And you run as far as you can. After my death, spiritual energy will dissipate on its own, and from now on you will be free. Sister, was it really necessary to say goodbye? Speeches at such a moment? I just didn't have the strength to squirm. I don't know how long Gokinghan can hold them back. But I had no doubt about one thing. When this gang would kill Gokinghan. I'm not happy either. Since it comes to that, why not give a fight? I'll drag one away. With me, I'm no longer at a loss. And if I drag two people away, I'll stay. In the black. My gaze slid over the four incessantly, analyzing the situation. They were getting closer and closer, and the fight could begin. At any second, but at this moment from afar. Another car approached at speed. Why are there so many of you? You're just getting in the way. Less than half a minute had passed before a new SUV arrived. Straight to us, then the window on the passenger seat slowly sank, and from there appeared a girl who was the eldest Gotsenhan. For 2 years, no more. One glance was enough for me to feel great. Pressure. Another third-rank dancer. The faces of the 5 blondes immediately froze. Just some kind of beast general. Why the hell did he attract this woman? Okay, let's leave. Guys, let's hurry to the goal. Otherwise someone will get ahead of us. It was obvious that this would be sudden. The girl who appeared disrupted the original plans of these blondes, seeing that the 5 were about to leave. I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, but Gausenhan. I don't think I thought so. Senior Jan, wait. She shouted, the SUV, about to leave, is here. But slowed down. The front passenger door opened, and the girl. Black tight suit, with 2 short daggers on her belt, got out of the car. There was a man with her. In silver armor, with short hair and a powerful build. He had a stern, square face that did not hostile anyone. Emotions. The girl was silent. She looked around at everyone present. And then looked at Gausenhan in bewilderment. You know me. There was a silent pressure coming from her. This girl was not just a third-rank dancer. Moreover, her vitality aura was the most powerful of everyone who was here. Goqing Han introduced herself. I am the daughter of teacher Guzian from the preparatory school, Shuemu Academy. Previously, I saw Senior Chan and Senior Chao on campus. Shuemu. Bear, aren't your parents unusual people? Just one phrase other than the name that matches with your father's name. Everything else is not the truth, but those two seem to. Did not attach any importance to this. A girl named Chan, who understands, nodded. So, this is Bu's youngest, and it worked. It amused me. What seemed complete to me. Nonsense. This girl actually took it as truth. Even those 5 guys with yellow hair believed in. It is without a shadow of a doubt to offend a minter's daughter in the wasteland. From Shuemu Academy. If this old bastard finds out, they'll be persecuted. Endlessly, the 5 looked at each other and silently backed away to their SUV. However, their steps did not escape several attentive pairs. I heard from my father a long time ago about the elder brother Julian and older sister Jan Lon from the Martial Academy. Art. They are said to be very righteous and cannot tolerate injustice. These 5 took my ring from my vault. I hope elder brother Zhao and elder sister Zhang, for the sake of that we students of the same academy, will not return my things. Hearing this, the five immediately became furious. They immediately began to snap back, saying that Bo Kinghane herself. She gave everything. She gave it herself. We didn't take anything away, okay? If you took my youngest things, return them. Yes, we didn't take anything that we should return. So, now any word of a student from Shuemu is law? Think it's possible just like that? Find any excuse to rob us, or what? The leader of the blondes wanted to object to something else, but before he could even open his mouth, Janlon put, "Hand on your dagger. Shuemu students are not rubbish like you. And not everyone is allowed to offend them. Since you don't want to give it back in a good way, let's see. Can you keep this vault to yourself?" After these words, the five blondes tensed, as if they were facing a mortal enemy. Janlon, don't get carried away. As a last resort, you'll have to fight, but you won't get off easy either. But you better think about whether it's worth it just because of spatial rings. Put everything else at risk? The blonde leader wanted to object, but Janlon had already drawn her twin daggers, standing next to Zhao Lian, also with one movement of his hand, snatched expensive long sword made of melt, seeing that the opponents drew their weapons. The blonde leader, after being silent for 2 seconds, with great reluctantly threw the spatial ring to Gao Qinghai. Our squad is alive and will remember today's insult. You'll still be waiting for me. Having said this, he turned around, got into the car and drove away, making sure that the five had driven far enough. Far. Gao Qinghai turned to Zhang Lan and Zhou Liang and folded hands as a sign of respect. Thank you so much to Sister Jan and Brother Zhou for stood up for justice. Otherwise, today everything could have ended very badly. Then Gao Qinghai learned from Jan Lan that in the town of dancers, number 72, which recently experienced a major purge, still hiding alone, a badly wounded beast of the lowest Lord rank. This beast is now extremely weak. Not even a tenth of his strength remained. Maximum at the level of beast general. Any beast of the general level costs at least tens or even hundreds of thousands. And the materials obtained by the Schvelard with her, in total, perhaps, will cost more than 1 million. That's why he attracted so many groups of dancers here. Gao Qinghai's eyes lit up. He was about to invite Qian Lan and Zhou Liang to team up, but Janlon stopped him with a gesture of her hand. Obviously, she believed that some dancer of the first rank, in the middle stage, like Gao Qinghai, there will only be for them abuse. But Gao Qinghai naturally didn't think so. The Lord rank beast has already gained intelligence. His intelligence is very high. Rasen knows that his location has been revealed. He will certainly move to a safer place. County Town number 0541 Khotan Velik, but its diameter exceeds 20 kilometers. Sister Jan, you can guarantee. Will I be able to find this low-ranking lord? Before other squads of dancers, my spirit beast, able to detect the smells of monsters in the air. He not only determines their strength, but can also indicate their location. The glory of Gao Xinhan attracted the attention of Zhang Lan and Zhao Liana. They involuntarily turned and looked at the same time at me. But, Junior Gu, you should understand very well. Even if we take you with us, in the end, we won't share anything with you. After all, in the wastelands the rules are simple. The spoils are divided according to contribution. Your fighting power, like that of your white-scaled snake, extremely small. Not only will you not be able to participate in the battle, but we will also have to distracted to protect you. Don't worry, Senior John, I certainly know the rules. I just want to come with you to gain experience. And nothing more. Even though Gazenhan behaved extremely sincerely, her uncharacteristic insistence made me suspicious. Something's wrong. However, Janlon did not attach any importance to this. If so, then let's go together. But let's get something clear right away. Although Zhao Liang and I are not weak, but we still have to face the Lord if something will go wrong in the process. You will bear the consequences yourself. That's how a temporary detachment of 3 was formed. Man and one of Mia. Then they went together into the depths of the wasteland, their goal. There was a county town number 0541, once it was a town with developed heavy industry, but the cataclysm that occurred turned this city into shabby industrial ruins. Having reached a place 10 kilometers from the city, so as not to scare off the target and not give yourself away to others. Group of dancers. The trio decided to get out of the car. It doesn't work. Gazenhan raised her hand and released herself from forest belts. Xia boy, try to see if you can find something. The air here is not the same as outside the town. Dancers. I can smell the monsters here. There were noticeably more smells. And besides, the information that each of them carried was different. Such a huge amount of information required processing. After lying motionless for 2 minutes, I slightly shook. Head. Such a gesture unwittingly made Qin Lan and Zhao Liang look surprised. Look at me. This white scaly from Mei Lingji has already achieved this level. Such an intelligent beast, even in the Academy of the Craters, is extremely rare. In response to their praise, Gao Qinghan only smiled. Looks like we need to keep moving deeper, and then the trio moved further to the city center. However, 3 whole hours passed. They searched almost the entire city area, but did not find. No trace of purpose. Senior Ajan, are you sure that we are in a county town? -541 seeing me shake my head again. Gao Qinghan couldn't help but ask, after all, before this moment, my sense of smell has never let me down. Exactly. Today at dawn, many troops, dancers, saw. In this city of that beast of the overlord level. Zhanlan frowned slightly as she looked at the map carefully. County Town 0 to 541. This beast, the Lord, is seriously wounded. He definitely did not. Would retreat. But numerous groups of dancers turn the whole. The city is upside down and they didn't catch him. If only Gazenhan and Zhanlan looked at each other. And they exclaimed in one voice, mines. Before the cataclysm, the rich deposits of this city were developed. As much as 50 years, after which countless developments remained, in which the beast could easily hide, the Lord, quietly. After leaving the main city area, the trio and the snake headed to the mining zone marked on the map. However, the situation in the mines turned out to be much more complicated. What Gazenkin and the others imagined. We entered 2 mines in a row, and both collapsed, due to a cataclysm. Although this helped us eliminate the wrong options, we wasted his time. On the way here, we've already encountered several squads of other dancers. If we continue like this, I'm afraid more troops will come. More. Everyone chooses one mine by intuition. We go 1 kilometer. If we don't find anything, let's go back. If we don't find anything in these 3, then the other units. Most likely, they will find that leader of the beast first. And this means that this beast and I have a leader. Not on the way. Jinlan is not one of those who doubt for long. He made this decision without hesitation, and he immediately chose one of the mines on the map. Zhao Liang also chose a mine on the map. Junior student Gio, you also choose. Gio Qinghan was a little surprised, but he didn't think for a long time, having glanced over. According to the map, she chose the southernmost mine, which was also, and the farthest from us, it is said, is made. The trio began research together. The mines that Janlon and Jiaoyan chose, in one. There was no trace of the anomalous beasts, and the other one had long since collapsed. Only the last one remains. The farthest mine chosen by Gazenhan, 3. People from Mia stood at the entrance to the mine. Looking at the dark, gloomy zeph of the cave, for some reason I felt an inexplicable anxiety, a vague feeling appeared. Desire to escape from here. It was the complete opposite of what I felt. In past mines, of the 3 options, did Gao Qinghan really choose loyal? I bowed my head slightly and looked at Gao Qinghan. But at this moment, Gao Qinghan's face did not falter. One muscle. She looked at the entrance to the mine, slightly detached, incomprehensibly. What was she thinking? Let's go. Zolian took out a powerful flashlight and stepped into the mine first. The rest followed him. 100 meters, 300 meters, 500 meters, we advanced. Deeper and deeper, suddenly I realized something was wrong. My body involuntarily froze. Although it was barely noticeable, I was absolutely sure. This is a powerful wave of vitality, I just couldn't. Coming from an ordinary, mutated beast. I didn't even have to explain anything. Go Qinghan had already noticed that something was wrong with me. She lowered her voice to the others and to me. I bet I found something. As soon as these words were spoken, Zhanlan and Zhao, the Liangs involuntarily froze, and then a look appeared on their faces. Anticipation. At the beginning, Zhanglan and Zhao Liang only heard that I could track mutated beasts by their hori only. That's why they agreed for Gao Han to take me with you. But who would have thought that in the end it was thanks to Gao Han? Will we really find this beast Jacques? Obviously, it was now impossible to follow the original agreement, so Kanlantaha said to Gao Han. First, let's defeat this Jacques, and then we'll talk about the rest. When we return, Gao Qinghan waved her hand and took out her spatial storage 2 Hunyuan pills. She gave them to me, Lucy Bayou, with the words, help us find him. I hardly suppressed the instinctive desire to escape. From here, following the intermittent scent, I led the three with me into the stupid. The deeper we went, the more distinct the previously subtle smell became. He became stronger and stronger. Soon the entire passage was saturated with this smell, which caused animal fear in me. Suddenly there was a low, drawn-out growl. All three instantly froze. Even their breathing became much quieter. From the sound one could understand that although the aura of this beast leader was incredibly powerful, in fact in his voice, pain and weakness were heard. Zalian, you are ahead. I will look for an opportunity to strike. By his wounds. Student Go, just cover us from the side, distract us. Attention of this creature, but under no circumstances enter. Fight with her. Jinlan quietly gave the last instruction. Go Tsinghan nodded in agreement. She activated Forest Belt and pulled me inside. The three of us made our way through the mine in the dark. We passed another 200-300 meters in, and then suddenly in front of us, a wide space opened up deep underground. It turned out to be a huge natural cave. The first thing that caught my eye was an animal taller than 4 meters, with 4 wolf paws, tens, bone spikes protruding from the back, low level. Lord, King of Steel Bones. At that moment, the three of us held our breath, with our third force, rank and 5th level. The hunt for a low-level lord was in itself a huge risk, not to mention the fact that it was bloodthirsty. Wolf, Kanglin, and Julian are also noticeable at this moment. We're nervous. The only good news was that the enemy was indeed seriously wounded. A long wound of almost 2 meters, practically ripping open. His belly was all over, the blood flowed incessantly. The three of us, just silently, watched the King of Steel Bones heal his wounds. No one was going to attack thoughtlessly, but waiting like this forever was also not an option. The Wolf King is so weakened. Other units have not yet found this place. The best strategy is to attack now. Therefore, Zhanlan immediately gave Zhao Liang a sign to act. But the King of Steel Bones seemed to sense something. Entrance to the cave. His dark green wolf pupils glared at us, as if warning us. So we don't bother him. But in our eyes, he was already almost dead. Once we've been spotted, there's no point in hiding anymore. We need to act quickly. Jan Lantan rushed forward, and Zhao Liang forcefully stamped his foot. A swift leap forward. All the life force of a third-ran dancer in this moment burst out. The long sismel blade in his hand flew high, up and then crashed down with fury. The blade whistled like a hawk, piercing the air. Right into the neck of the Wolf King. It would not be an exaggeration to say that this is speed and power. If I were in his place, I would face inevitable death. However, the Wolf King of Gangu simply raised his paw and stopped. The grinding of metal was heard, and sparks flew. He repelled this powerful and heavy blow. Giuliana was thrown back more than 10 meters. He felt his hand tighten. The blade of the blade trembled. But, oddly enough, not only did he not panic. On the contrary, satisfaction appeared on his face. He only had the strength left at the low-ranking level. Beast General. Jalian's voice was heard. Only then did I notice. That Jan Lan, who was just next to Go Qinghan. It is unknown when she disappeared. The next moment, the cold shine of the blade flashed from the side. from the Wolf King of Gangu, leaving behind a bloody track. The sudden attack forced the Wolf King from Ganga unwittingly. Howl in pain, he immediately swung his claws at that side, but grabbed only emptiness. Zhang, having struck, immediately retreated, not allowing. The Wolf King from Gangu has no chance of counterattack. Both Xiao Liang and Zhang Lan understood perfectly well that the Wolf King from Gangu is still a beast of the level spiritual ruler, and even if he is seriously wounded, there was no way to fight him directly. The only sure way is to constantly exhaust him, draining his strength. This was the most correct tactic. After that, Zhao Liang rushed forward again. The long melt blade in his hand collapsed again. On the enemy, she rushed into the attack with him, and Janlan, clutching 2 daggers in her hands. One attacks head-on to attract attention. The second inflicts sudden blows and groans, aggravating enemy wounds. Their interaction was surprisingly polished. There was something even bewitching about it. All 3 attacks in a row hit the target. Wounds of the Wolf King's steel drum that just dragged on. At that moment they were torn apart again. Severe pain. It made his anxious eyes flash. Sparks. And here comes a new wave of attacks. Zhao Liang rushed forward with his blade again. Zhanlan followed right behind him. But this time, King Wolf's steel drum completely refused to defend against Zhao Liang. Turning his head sharply, he glared at his gods' eyes at Zhanglan. The next second, his huge body suddenly disappeared from the place. Zhanglan's heart skipped a beat. He instinctively jumped high up and jumped away. Back. But before he could land, the Steel Wolf King, the drum, having opened its bloody mouth, was already rushing towards him. Zhanglan had nowhere to dodge, and it seemed that only death. Zhao Yang rushed towards the Wolf King at full speed. Steel drum, wishing before Zhanglan will, wounded, intercept the Wolf King's attack. But his speed could hardly compare with the speed. King Wolf's steel drum, seeing the wolf attack, getting closer, Zhanglan had already given up trying to resist, putting out a short blade in front of him. He was going to withstand this bite of the Wolf King. However, the next moment, a long spear. The voices of Zhou Shijie and Gao Qinghan suddenly thundered. Jinlan looked at the spears flying towards him and almost instinctively changed the position of his short blade. There was a loud clang of metal on metal. The force of the blow threw the copy of Janlan away. In the place where Jinlan had just stood, now, a spear stuck out of the melt, and then there was a crunch. A spear made of melt that must have been incredible, durable. The steel drum was immediately bitten by the King Wolf. In one bite, shattering into several pieces. He dodged the steel attack with amazing ease. Leader Wolf. Only after landing did Jinlan come to his senses. A belated fear ran down his spine. Chill. Even his melted spear broke so easily. If this bite had hit him, I'm afraid he would have been forever remained lying here. Although Gazenhan did not enter the battle, all her attention was focused on the Steel Wolf leader, at least with the help. Gazenhan, Zhanan, and dodged this deadly the strike of the leader's Steel Wolf, but the danger had not yet passed. The leader wolf did not give them a break. He turned around and again rushed at Zanlan. But this time Janlan had already managed to react. He jumped back sharply, and at the same moment the Zhaoyan's attack. The long blade made of Tsintio melt seemed to carry the power of endless raging waves. He fell upon the steel Vazhak's wolf. Thousands of units and blood burst out. In an instant, even the steel wolf Vazhak could not completely ignore such a blow, so he decisively gave up pursuing the retreating John Lane and turned around to Zhalian, who attacked with full force. The paw of a wolf shot up and hit the blade in her hands with force. Zhalian. The sound of metal on metal. It instantly spread throughout the huge underground cave. The caves shook from the powerful ejection and blood from the water. Stones fell from the ceiling. Zhalian was thrown back. He plunged his blade into the ground to extinguish the power. From the dacha, Janlan also retreated and stood shoulder to shoulder with Go Qinghan. Thank you for helping me out. Janlan slightly turned his head towards Go Qinghan. The fear he experienced took his breath away. We'll talk about it when we get out. Go Ching Han's face remained unperturbed. These last attacks completely enraged this creature. Now the real battle will begin. You two can't handle this creature. We Saibai will also have to join the battle. I will only distract the king of the Steel Wolves. The rest is up to you and Big Brother Zhao. Zhan Lan and Zhao Liang looked at each other, and then both nodded. After this, Jian Lan from his spatial storage took out a long spear from the pool. He handed it to Bo. Ching Han. The quality is not very good, but it will do for now. We act quickly. Forward. Jian Lan shouted, and all three rushed to attack, and taking advantage of the darkness, he sneaked up to the king of Steel Wolves. This time, Zhao Liang did not hold back. Each of his blows was delivered with full force. Jian Lan acted much more carefully, although he threw fewer punches. But each of them was aimed at widening the wound. On the bellies of the Steel Wolf King, Bo King Hain, with a spear in his hands, waited on the side. Every time Jian Lan was about to strike, he attacked with him, taking off part of Jian Lan's pressure. Under the pressure of their combined attacks, early on the belly of the king, there were more and more steel wolves. Blood was gushing without ceasing. If this continues, his position will become. It's getting worse, and the king of the Steel Wolves is obviously fine. He understood this. He raised his head and let out a long howl. I felt my mind suddenly go blank. And then I was overcome by a feeling of numbness and confusion. My body, it stopped obeying me and crawled. To the king of Steel Wolves, the other three instinctively covered their ears, but their minds were still inevitably damaged. From the blow, their bodies went numb for a moment. The king of Steel Wolves certainly wasn't going to miss such an opportunity. His scarlet eyes scanned the battlefield. Next, Mick. He rushed at Jiaoyan and Jian Lane. The wolf raised his paw and then sharply lowered it with a dull sound. Zhaoyang and Jian Lan were driven back by the king's blow. Steel wolves, and the body was hit with force against the wall. Caves. It was incredibly difficult for him to even just get up. He has already completely lost his fighting ability. The gaze of the leader of the Steel Wolves slowly turned, and he wandered towards Gotzinghan. But strangely enough, there was no slightest sign of confusion on Gotzinghan's face. Traces of panic or fear. On the contrary, the expression on her face was unusually calm. Soul Destruction Needle. Gotzinghan, which seemed frozen in place, suddenly, quietly shouted a spell, and immediately threw out the cave. A furious whirlwind swept by. The leader of the Steel Wolves was already raising his paw for blow. At the same moment he froze, his eyes became empty. Gui, deafened by the roar of the leader of the Steel Wolves, in this, the moment was also shaken up, and his ability returned. Move. However, using this technique, Gao Ching Han, as if she had lost all her strength, her body went limp and she collapsed to the ground. She couldn't even stand. Xiao Bai? Gao Ching Han's voice rang out, and I immediately understood everything. I am lightning fast. Rushed forward and grabbed the wound on his belly with his teeth. Leader of the Steel Wolves, I instantly released all my poison, as if it were free. I poured it non-stop. The defense of such a lord-level beast is extremely strong. And although I clearly felt how, unfortunately, powerful, Jacques' life force suppressed my poison throughout his entire body, he still didn't fall. Now all three were on the battlefield. Out of order. If I don't take this chance, I'm afraid today we will all die here. In the sight that the leader of the Steel Wolves is about to come, I decided to take a desperate step. In one motion, I buried myself in his body. A sharp pain brought the leader of the Steel Wolves to his senses. He was constantly on fire. I opened my mouth and grabbed him from the inside, and then a new one. A portion of poison flowed directly into the leader's internal organs. Steel Wolves. External protection is indestructible, but internal ones cannot. Argan be just as durable. He thrashed about in pain. Blood gushed out in streams, the howl of a wolf. The king became increasingly quiet. More than 10 seconds later, he fell onto the ground with a crash. Land. He twitched a little more and went quiet. Did it really turn out that there was a trinity that placed everything on me? My hopes finally felt joyful. Astonishment. Moving their legs with difficulty, they slowly approached to the wolf rabbit of steel bone, when suddenly his belly swollen sharply. The hand holding the knife immediately tensed. They were already ready. But then I emerged from his belly. Tavorda, I was holding a piece of some internal organ, at least. I was covered in blood, but I looked cheerful and full of energy. Congratulations. Carrier. You have beaten the Wolf King of the Steelbone level. Lord, received 350 vitality points. Received 220 points. Cleansing, congratulations, Carrier. You have discovered a new branch of the art of cleansing, Steel Bone. Once activated, the strength of all bones in the body increases. A Lord-level beast is truly something special. Just one piece of internal organ gave me 350 vitality points, 220 purification points, and a whole branch of the art of cleansing. Such a huge influx of vitality made the energy in my body bubble. I felt like I was about to be torn apart from the inside. It's a feeling. It was similar to what I experienced when I first took the pill. Mixed blood. I didn't think that even at the 4th level my enhanced digestion can't cope with such pressure. I had no choice but to raise the reinforced digestion up another level after seeing me get out. From the body of the Wolf King of Steelbone, the trio looked at each other, and suddenly all three fell silent. The death of the Wolf King meant that the spoils would have to be divided. But if not for the sudden blow from Go King Hane, who immobilized the Wolf King of Steelbone, and not him, a spiritual beast that got inside to wreak havoc, and who killed him, then, I'm afraid, now, Zhanlan and Zhao Liang would have long ago become the prey of the King of Steel Wolves. In the end, Go Qinghan spoke first. Here, you can't linger. Sister Zhang, first remove the Steel Wolf King's body, and we'll talk about everything else when we return. Having heard, Glory Gaosenhan, Zhanlan, and Julian are relieved. Exhaled. That's right. First you need to get out of the mine. Zhanlan didn't say anything. She waved her hand, and her body, King of the Steel Wolves, disappeared into her artifact storage. Gaosenhan returned me to the spiritual ribbon, and only after that, all three hurried to the exit from the mine. But halfway there, they suddenly heard someone's voices. The sounds of battle can be heard from this mine. The King of Steel Wolves is definitely here. Faster.